Hey y'all, my name is Jasmine Jones. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and you are now watching Black Girl, a Therapist in the Wild. And this is a little series I like to call Therapist Sips and Reviews. And today we are sipping on, once again, Stella Rosa Black, because the bitch got a job and I don't got time to go buy some alcohol and be drinking like that. And and the bottle's almost gone after these videos that I've been doing. So, I'm just going to finish up the bottle this evening. Anyways, we are reviewing I May Destroy You, Season 1, Episode 11, Would You Like to Know the Sex? And this episode, I feel like Arabella has brought together all her experiences and the different experiences that have affected her and the different choices that she's made, whether impulsive or whether patient, and kind of culminated in the end of this episode, as well as how she handles certain events in this episode. Kwame is also, learning what it's like to be treated nicely, and also learning that, not everybody's going to forgive you for your fuckery. But yeah, let's start. So, we start off with Arabella and Terry. They're in Kwame's dance class, aerobics class, or whatever. I hate aerobics. I don't like things that go fast, like running and aerobics. And I don't know how people can do it. I like yoga. Yoga's fun. It's slow. And yes, I still get out of breath, but it feels more controlled than just jumping up and down and doing fast workouts and shit like that. And I can do strength training too. Building muscle or doing yoga. Those are my exercises. But anyways, they're in the class, and then the class is over. Kwame is getting a text from Tyrone. Tyrone wants to take him kayaking. Ooh, so something may possibly be forming between him and Tyrone. Kwame is feeling a type of way about it. But we'll get to that a little bit later. So Arabella is just engrossed in this book that she's reading. I think it's called The Sundial, and it's by an author named Della something or other. And she's just engrossed in the book and just hyper focused on it. She's reading it after the class, and all of a sudden Terry looks at her phone, and then she starts hyperventilating and whatever. Apparently Terry got her job. She auditioned for some commercial or something, and she got it. And hooray for Terry. So now we go over to Arabella's house with Ben. Terry is outside talking with Ben. Arabella is in the bathroom, and she's just into this book that she's reading, and she's reading it on the toilet. It reminds me of high school. I used to walk around with a book all the time, walking around just reading books. So it was reminiscent for me. I was like, oh, she's really liking this book. Nothing's lighthearted though. So when it comes to this book, there are some things that are definitely not okay. Well, not necessarily not okay, but just, there are some triggering factors when it comes to this book. There you go. While Bella is on the toilet reading the book, Kwame and Terry are outside talking to Ben. And Kwame is feeling some type of way just about, Tyrone. He feels that Tyrone's really nice, and Kwame is questioning his own level of kindness and feeling like he may not match up with Tyrone. He tells Ben and Terry that, have they ever felt like, someone is perfect for them, but, it just isn't, they feel like they haven't matched up to that person's level yet. And, Ben understands, and he says, yeah, sure, that makes sense. And Kwame is like, well, what do you do about that? And Ben is just like, well, you work on yourself until you do meet their level, but I think it's also about working on yourself for yourself, though, not to necessarily meet somebody's level, but more so to be a better person for you, because that person could come and go. I mean, yeah, you could fall in love and they can be in love, but shit happens with people. So if you're only healing yourself, and as we saw Arabella trying to do impulsive things to heal herself for, various different reasons, you can see when you don't heal yourself for you, then you start to become an issue. It starts to become an issue when the thing that you heal yourself for changes things up or leaves or whatever. So yeah, I'm glad Kwame found somebody, though. I feel like he deserved to have somebody, you know. Terry goes and looks for Arabella. Arabella is, like I said, on the toilet reading the book. And Arabella then comes into the little patio area where Ben and Kwame and Terry are. And she's still reading the book. And Terry's trying to talk to her and tell her that she's evolved and done so great over this past year and healing and all this other stuff. And Arabella is just caught up in this book. And then she finishes the book and she's just magnified by the story of the book. She wants to meet the author, all of this stuff. She feels like her and the author are twins, so she's under the impression the author is a woman, and she wrote the book and she's also under the same publishing company as her, and she would like to meet her. So Terry and Ben and Kwame, I think Kwame's still there, maybe Kwame left, but they're like, oh well, why don't you talk to the publishing company and see if you can meet her. Arabella is still in that stage of anxiety where she doesn't want to talk to the publishing company because she hasn't finished her book. She's not in that space mentally to connect all the pieces of her emotions in her mind to finish her book. So apparently I think this is like a new book. This isn't necessarily the book she was writing when the show first started. Maybe she's rewriting it, now. That's the goal, is to rewrite it. And so to kind of more so match her emotional level, which I think is a smart idea, is to match who you are now versus who you were before when you first wrote the book. And so she's anxious. So Terry's just like, okay, well, why don't you DM this person? So Arabella is like, okay. And so Terry comes up with the bright idea of having Arabella do a video DM to send to the person. Arabella tries to do the video DM herself, and she is looking awkward and she's looking unsure and she doesn't know what to say. And so Terry gives her a little help and puts Arabella on the toilet holding the book, and then with a little pep in her voice and talking about, I love this book so much I couldn't even get off the loo, which is toilet in Great Britain language. And so she sends the DM, and everybody's giving her a thumbs up. Terry, Ben are saying, well, it's a good video and I think she'll respond. And she sends the DM. The author leaves her on scene. And then she thinks, oh well, maybe I need to send a little bit more, maybe I'll put an X. And so she puts the X, and then I don't know what the X means, is that hugs and kisses or some shit like that. And then she goes to the author's page and the author has blocked her. She looks crestfallen and fucked up in the face. And then we see her on the elevator going up to Susie Hyman's whatever the name of the publishing company is, and then the owner of the publishing company, her name is Susie, and the name of the publishing company, which is her last name. So she goes up to see Susie, and Susie is up there. She has this bountiful plant garden in her office, and she's really into plants and gardening and shit like that. And so she's talking to Arabella about the plants and how she's connected to the plants, and having Arabella touch the plants, and they're rubbing the plants, and I didn't really, I kill plants, so I'm surprised I've kept my cat alive. I don't know what I would do with a child, but if I can keep a cat alive, I can keep a child alive, but not a plant. No, either I overwater it or I don't water it enough. I mean, I kind of want to try succulents, but I just have given up on plants. Fuck plants. I like to look at them. And one day when I have a house, I would like to have a rose garden. But I figure if it's outside and it's the nature will mostly take care of it. And I just have to come and water it occasionally and maybe cut some weeds and shit. That's my belief. That's my hope. But anyways, Arabella is standing there, and then she tells this joke about because Susie says we all come from trees, and then Arabella says, oh, that must be why we have the melanin. So she's trying to tell this little stupid joke about the trees are brown, and then Susie's just looking at her like she's stupid or some shit. I'm just like, what she's trying to say. Don't put her in that awkward position like that. Just say the joke wasn't funny. She's just standing there acting like she don't know what the fuck she's trying to say, oh, what? Huh? And Arabella's like, I was just trying to say how our skin is like the bark on the trees, and so that's why, and stuff. And so Susie's just like, Where's your book, honey? Arabella's like, I got the writer's block. It's not ready yet. Susie's like, well, it's been a while. And Arabella's like, yeah, I know. And it's just, I'm not there yet. And then Arabella dives into asking if Susie could hook her up with Della. So before we get it further into the show, before we find out who Della is, I'm sitting here thinking like, Susie's a bitch, because Susie just straight up says no. And Arabella's like, oh, well, I thought, she could help me with my writing. Susie's like, no, she can't. And, yeah, I'm just like, what the fuck is it? Why is she being a bitch? And so then Arabella's like, oh, well, thank you. And she awkwardly leaves. And the next she's sitting there with her agents. And her agents are telling her that they just got a message from the publishing company that they've released Arabella from her commission. She owes the publishing company the advance that they paid her. So she's like deeply in debt at this point. Read your contracts, people. If you're not ready to put out a product, when it comes to art, if people give you an advance, that's a loan. That's if you don't sell good enough, if you can't give them the product that they're looking for and they already gave you an advance, that's a loan. That's not free money. So that's how people in the 90s and shit got gypped and shit when they were trying to become rappers and stuff. And it still happens today because young people, but I think young people are more on the uptake today. There's the internet and stuff like that. We're reading contracts or giving if you get a contract, give the contract to your own personal lawyer to read first before you sign anything. Hello. And all the other shit that you need to do before you sign your life away to a company or whatever. But anyway, so Arabella is crestfallen because her agents are releasing her. Her publishing company has released her, and she's deeply in debt. Then we go over to Arabella and Terry at the bar where Arabella was assaulted. So apparently Arabella's been stalking this bar. I don't even think she knows why she's been stalking this bar yet, but she's been there over and over again, various different times, and it's just like, okay. But at the end of the day, it was helpful for her. So, everybody has their own process. Mm-hmm. So she's leaning on Terry's shoulder crying because, she just feels horrible and fucked up. And Terry's trying to flirt with the waiter. So Terry's trying to flirt with the waiter while she's talking to Arabella, and then she gets the waiter's number. And then, Arabella gets an email, a text, a DM. No, she gets a DM from Della. So Della DMs her and then emails her too. And so Della wants to meet. So Terry, the waiter comes out and Terry goes off with the waiter. And Arabella is going to stay there and wait for Della to come and meet her at the bar. So also before all that happened, Kwame is meeting with the white woman that he, did not disclose that he was gay to before he had sex with her. I think he was thinking about how nice Tyrone is and wanting to match Tyrone's stilo and all that other shit. But, so I guess this is why he's meeting with her. So he meets with her to apologize for making her his experiment. This white woman is pissed the fuck off. She is traumatized. She is upset at Kwame. And that upset turns into kind of like this vile lashing out at Kwame. And Kwame is just kind of like, it feels like he's just kind of taking it. I feel like, I get a sense that Kwame might feel like he deserves, like she calls him a predator and all this other stuff. And I feel like if it was just that scene at the restaurant, she has a right to be upset. Sometimes we lash out and say fuck shit when we're upset. And then she gets up and leaves. And, it would have been over. And I feel like Kwame just kind of took it to the chest because, what he did was wrong. And, just because you apologize to somebody, that doesn't make it go away. Like, the feelings are still there. So she's just going to be mad for a long time. And he did what he had to do. Like, he apologized. He tried. So that's all you can really do is own up to your shit, recognize that you were wrong, change your life around. That's the sandwich The apology is like a piece of lettuce. The big piece is the rest of the sandwich is at changing your life around. Okay, don't take that part out, because people can apologize all day every day and then go and do the same shit over and over again and keep apologizing like they don't have a pattern at this point. So, she ups and leaves. And then the whole scene with Terry and Bella at the bar, and Terry leaves, and so then Terry's on a date with a waiter, and they're having a nice little chit chat, get together, and while they're sitting there waiting for their food, this person comes up to them. I don't know if this person is trans or whatever, so I'm just going to say this person comes up to them, and they want to, talk to the waiter guy and just thank him for whatever he did. As far as I thought he was an actor at first, so I was just like, oh, I guess he's an actor. But the person that works there is like a waiter, and they're like, oh, I saw you on such and such, and I just want to say that it made me feel really good inside to see you and stuff. And Terry's just sitting there, she doesn't know what's happening. She's just like, why is this person coming up to us? What is he on? Waiter walks away, and then Terry just looks at him, and she's like, well, what do you do? What do you want? And the waiter guy seems really shy about it, doesn't want to talk about it. So I'm still thinking, well, he's an actor, so I don't know, it's a show. So yeah, and then Terry gets up, and then she has to go to the bathroom. So as Terry walks to the bathroom, we skip back over to Arabella waiting for Della, and who shows up is Zane, the nigga that took the condom off and that she called out in a few episodes ago. And he's just standing there looking awkward and shit. And Arabella's just looking at him like, okay, well, hi. They're awkwardly saying hi to each other multiple times, because I guess they don't know how to, whatever. And Zane is like, hi. And he's like, can I get you a drink? And she's like, no, I'm waiting for somebody. And then she's sitting there. And then he says hi again, and then she realizes that he's Della, so he's writing under a pseudonym. So basically, the publishing company is letting him still write as long as he doesn't put his name down on the books. So he's Della. So Arabella has to take a second to just think about it, and she calls him over to the table, and she gives him a whole read talking about, I'm not afraid of you. I am embracing my negativity. All the things that were under the bed are in me now, and so on and so forth. So that was really interesting that she needed to say that. She needed to say that to him, and he's all sitting there like, well, I don't want you to be afraid of me and stuff. It's not about you, sir. She needed to say that to you to be able to have this conversation, this sit down conversation. So he sits down, and he starts talking to her about the writing process. So he's going to help her write. And Arabella is just kind of like, she's into it. She's into what he's saying about writing. So she's keeping it very shallow. And I think because at the very end, when they part, she says, bye, Della. So I think the way that she dealt with him being there was to compartmentalize and not see him as Zane, but to see him as Della. So that way it would be easier for her to kind of sit there and take the education he was trying to give her and shit. It was a very awkward situation, very triggering situation when someone that sexually assaulted you is sitting here trying to, help you with shit. And it's like, he gave her good information about writing and writing styles and how to organize your writing and whatever the fuck. So yes. Next, we go back to Terry. She is in the bathroom. So I guess she looked up the waiter, so it's a YouTube video, and he was being interviewed about being transgender. So he's transgender, and Terry is just sitting there staring at the phone like, okay. And then she walks back out and sits down, and I don't know how she thought this was going to come about or how she was going to handle this, but she basically, just sits there and starts having chit chat with him, and then it's asking him about himself. She's asking him to tell her more about himself. and he starts to go into his childhood and how he got to London. And then he says, like, basically that he's transgender. He says, I'm a man on the outside with a vagina between my legs, or something like that. So he disclosed. I'm curious to know if he would disclose if she hadn't went in the bathroom, or the waiter person hadn't walked up to them and asked questions. But I mean, he seemed very open about disclosing. He wasn't hesitant or, awkward about it. So maybe he would have. Maybe he would, shit. Maybe that's just something. I feel like honesty is good, because one thing, especially before we have the sex, because people are crazy, and you cannot control how people react to certain information. So that's one thing. And also just to be honest, and that way the person can like you fully for you, and not for, reasons that person made up inside their own mind. There you go. So I appreciate his honesty. And she's sitting there like, okay. And he's like, are you bothered? And she's like, well, no. And he's like, do you want to leave? And she's like, well, if I get up and leave, that makes me transphobic. And he's like, oh, you're not transphobic. She's like, I'm not transphobic. And so, they're sitting there laughing and, trying to continue the dinner because her food just came and stuff like that. Next, we go back to Bella and Condom Nigga. And basically, Bella is basically learning things from this nigga. Like, he went to Cambridge. He knows what the fuck he's talking about at the very least. So she takes a deep breath and she invites him back to her apartment. And he's just sitting there looking at her, He didn't bring up the assault the whole time, I don't think. He just is trying to talk to her about writing. He did talk about like what happened to him, and as far as the publishing company and his job and things like that after the video went viral. But they're just talking about writing at this point. And so Bella invites him back to her apartment. So she's got that bug inside of her now. She wants more information. She wants to know how to fix this and have her career go in the direction that she wants it to go. So next we go back to Terry and the waiter dude having their date, and the waiter dude is calling her a prude, and she's like, I'm not a prude, I had a threesome. And he's just looking at her like, okay. And they start laughing about it and stuff like that. And then we go back to Bella, and Bella is got the bug. Like, she in her apartment, like, got the whole storyboard for her book up on the wall. Like, she's motivated now. She's running with it. And then, when she has, I guess, the bare bones of what she wants to write, she asks Condom Nigga to leave, and she says, bye, Della. And then she tells him to take out the trash, her rape bags that were on the floor in front of her bed. And it's funny because I feel like she's basically telling her rapist to take her rape shit away. Like, the rapist and the rape shit, like, it's taking the trash out, so decluttering her space and her mind, physically and mentally. I felt like that scene was symbolic or some shit, because I was just like, she just told the trash to walk out the door and take the rest of the trash with her. And very smoothly too. Like, she wasn't even paying attention to him, and he just looked at her and shit like, she called me Della, she didn't even call me my name. Like, what the fuck you expect, nigga? Like, she's not going to, like, did you expect this to turn into some romance thing after you raped her? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Maybe he might have been thinking that, maybe not, but I mean, he was staring at her, and when she called him Della, and looked up kind of upset. So trash took itself out. Next, we go back to Terry and the waiter dude. And Terry is telling him about her threesome and how she met the guys. And the waiter dude basically says that was a setup. They knew each other. And Terry was like, how do you know? And da-da-da. And then she finally brings up them dapping and first of all, walking out together after the threesome, and then dapping downstairs in the window. So, she kind of comes to terms with the fact that she was set up, and it's upsetting. And the waiter dude even said it, like, it's upsetting, it burns, doesn't it? And she said, and she just kind of looks and smiles and looks all hurt and shit, and it's like fucked up and all this other stuff. So yeah, We go to Ben. He is tinkering outside of the house. He's always by himself, and something at the end when they showed Ben made me feel sad for him. So we'll get to that eventually. But, we go back to Arabella. She's in her room. She's getting her storyboard together, and she has this kind of moment where all the scenes from her life over the past year are just coming together. Like she's kind of going back through her journey over the past year, the impulses and the mistakes and the positive and the happy, and she's recognizing her journey and putting it together for the storyboard, I'm assuming. And it's like all the pieces are coming together, and she can control them and manipulate where they go and how they are ordered in her mind, in her life, and in her book. And it's really interesting because I feel like, that's why getting past trauma and shit like that is a journey. It's a journey of mistakes. It's a journey of impulses. It's a journey of fun, happy, awesome moments and really low lows. And it could take years to get to a point where you feel stable. And, just the fact that she was able to step back and self-reflect like that in her art, because I think the art helped bring it out of her, taking all those pieces and putting them into something and really seeing her life over that year for what it was and what it could be and things like that. And, Zane had mentioned before he left that he felt like he thought that her book was going to be about consent, because she had mentioned it at the meeting that she had with the publisher and with Zane and with her agents before the book summit. But apparently it's not. It's something more possibly based off of what she was, was in her mind when she was putting the storyboard together. So I thought that was really cool. And during the course of this, like, Bella's not sleeping, she's not eating, she's doing whole baths with the towel, cleaning her underarms and stuff, and then going back to putting her book together. And, we then see that she finally gets it to where she wants it to be. And then she comes out of her room, and there's Ben on the patio, and he's tinkering around the patio by himself. And, she asks him how he's doing, and I don't think she asked them to hang out or anything. I think she just said that she was going back to the bar to stalk the bar. So that's what she's been doing. So she leaves to stalk the bar, and we see Ben open his phone, and he's looking at a video about loneliness. So Ben is lonely. That's so sad. That's why he was by himself. Is he depressed? Is that why? Is this what's happening? Is Ben depressed? Is that's why he isolates and shit? And he might talk to Terry and Kwame and Bella sometimes. So see now I feel bad for Ben. Like, first I didn't think he was real, and that's what depression can do too. That's interesting. Damn you, Michaela Cole, you fucking with us. So that's what depression can do. It can make you feel invisible. Bitch. I didn't catch that shit. I literally was sitting here thinking this nigga was invisible. I thought he was fake. He's just depressed and lonely and shit. You see how it all just comes together? Did y'all see that? That shit was bomb. But I mean, I feel bad for Ben though. I feel bad for Ben. God bless Ben. And then we go to Kwame. He's on a date with Tyrone at I think it's an art gallery or some shit. And the white woman is texting him on his phone, calling him a fucking pig and shit. And he just looks at his phone and then has a little sad face and then puts it back. And it's like, see, if they had just kept it to that scene in the restaurant, I've been like, she's justified in being mad, but now she's turning it into harassing. And maybe I think it's the same day, so it's that night, and maybe she was triggered by the lunch. So what, I'm gonna see what happens in the next episode, but it looks like it's harassing at this point. Like, you don't need to harass him. He tried to have a conversation with you. He tried to apologize, and what he did was wrong, and his apology didn't affect you. It still hurts. It's understandable. You ain't gotta harass niggas though. It's like, I think she wants him to go to jail for what he did, but because, it's not necessarily seen as sexual assault, it's more so seen as withholding information about, his sexuality and using her as an experiment. he's probably not going to go to jail or nothing bad's going to happen to him. So I think that's frustrating her too, because she feels assaulted. She can't do anything about it. So I think he's just taking these hits to the chest and being like, I did some really fuck shit and she's traumatized and I don't know what to do with this. Like, I guess I'm just going to have to take it to the chest and let her vent or whatever. I'm thinking that's what he's doing, because he just puts the phone back in his pocket and goes back over to Tyrone and tries to enjoy the rest of his date, even though I'm sure it's in the back of his mind. So Bella and Terry are at the bar again. And Bella's at the bar and Terry walks up and sits down, and then here comes the waiter dude. Terry walks up with the waiter dude, I think, or the waiter dude comes up later after Terry sits down, some shit like that. Apparently they're dating now, so that's nice. Terry found somebody, Kwame found somebody, and Bella is still trying to overcome what she's experienced. So they're sitting there laughing and talking, and Bella looks up and sees these two men, and then all of the memories from that night come flooding back. So I'm assuming she did get really faded and she repressed the memory, not necessarily that she was drugged. I don't know, because do memories come back like that if you're drugged? I mean, I figure like you black out and you lose your memory if you're drugged. So maybe, I don't know, because I could see if she repressed it and then on seeing these men's faces, it all came back. So yeah, it all came back, and it was like the earlier piece where she was putting her life together in that particular setting. Now this situation is making her put the pieces back together, what happened that night. So apparently Simon did leave her, so I guess he's not a rapist, whatever. He's just an asshole because he left her. And she was stumbling around. She ended up at an ATM machine, and she gave some homeless man some money, and she was stumbling around the bar, and these two men saw her falling all over herself at the bar, and they picked her up and they put her in a taxi and they drove to another bar, and then they took her in the bathroom, and the white man had her in the stall and he raped her. And the black dude stood outside the bathroom and like kept a lookout or whatever and shit like that. So they both was in on it together. I don't know if the black dude raped her too, but it ends on that. Like Bella's just staring at them at the very end. Like she comes back to herself and she's just staring at them like, so I don't know how that's going to go. Like, is she going to get up and accuse them? Is she going to, I don't want to say let it go, because why? It's going to be hard to accuse them though, but I feel like something needs to be done and shit like that. So the stalking of the bar actually did something in helping her process her trauma and remember what happened. So we'll see what happens in the next episode, because them niggas is evil. So I guess Simon didn't do nothing, and his evil ass cousin that looked like a fucking henchman didn't do nothing or whatever. So whatever. But yeah, I'm still stuck on the fact that Ben has depression, and that's why he was invisible this whole fucking series, because depression makes you feel invisible. Somebody needs to give Ben a hug. They need to spend time with him. They need to hang out with him. He's lonely. I hope he doesn't kill himself. What if he kills himself? I was scared Kwame was going to kill himself when he got raped and shit. So I'm just always scared people are going to kill themselves, because they're just going to get so sad and there's nothing you can do about it, and they just end up dead. And I just feel like, you see how my mind works? I just get anxious and start catastrophizing everything and everybody. So that's why I have to have boundaries and structures and a lot of self-care around my emotions. But yes, this was a good episode. Bella came into herself. She recognized her patterns. She looked back over her years. She picked up her repressed memory. Terry was able to recognize her assault, and she ended up in a relationship, and that's nice. And then Kwame is trying to build this relationship with Tyrone and also work on feeling good enough to have a relationship with Tyrone, and also is being harassed by this white woman he didn't tell was gay. And so I don't know how I feel about Kwame being harassed by that white woman though. I know he did some fuck shit. I know. And I know she feels like she was just like violently raped. Like that's how she's reacting. Like she was violently raped. And you know, you can't tell somebody how deeply to be traumatized by something. You know, like if it happened to me, I would just be like, well, we fucked, you gay. Okay, that's nice. I mean, you know, whatever. But you can't tell somebody how to be traumatized, and she already had a bunch of different biases and stuff like that. So it's like if you are disgusted by somebody or something or a lifestyle, if that somebody or something, you know, intrudes on your life in a sneaky way, you're gonna feel assaulted. So I mean, I don't know how I feel about it. What do you guys think about that white woman harassing him? Like, do you think that he should do more to stop her? Do you think that he should take it to the chest? Do you think that she has the right to harass him? Do you think that she needs to go to therapy and work on herself and stop harassing him? Because it's toxic. It's like she's staying in her shit and not working on herself, and then she's harassing this man now. So I don't know. But yeah, that was my review of I May Destroy You, Season 1, Episode 11. What's the name of the show? A long-ass name. Okay, don't come for me. Would you like to know the sex? And I'm thinking somebody's pregnant or some shit like that because of them two pregnant women that were at the police station or some shit. I was like, they're going to revisit them or something. But I think it's about her repressed memory coming up. You know, maybe. What do you think the title's about? Would you like to know the sex? I think it's about her repressed memory, but it could be like more entangled than that, entanglements and things. But yeah, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed this review, and later days.